Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today's video, we're going to talk about 5 plugins that can take your vocal tone to the next level. Doesn't matter what microphone you're using, even if you have a budget mic, you're setting it up and you're not getting even close to the sound that you want out of the gates. That's okay. This is before we get to, a lot of the ear candy. We got to get the core tone down first. All the way from the start, I can feel it in my heart, like all the way from the start. So let me go ahead and play this back for you. This is just a little verse I put together, and then we're going to go through each of these plugins. Right now, they're all bypassed, so this is just dry the way it was recorded. Look too far ahead and now I miss the view. Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing, can we live for one thing other than... The first plugin you need to take your vocal tone to the next level is going to be some kind of preamp emulation, or even better, a sort of channel strip with some EQ settings, so that one, we can get that warmth and we can get that subtle saturation that a hardware preamp would give you. A lot of you out there using USB mics, cheaper interfaces with the onboard pre's. We want to add a little bit of that sort of analog heat to it. So we got a preamp section, and then we also want to just doctor the EQ curve of your mic just a little bit, pre-compression, pre-processing, to get it closer out of the gates to the tone that we want. So let's go ahead and activate this one from Arturia. This is called the Pre-Trident A. You can experiment with different preamp emulations out there. We're just going to bring the gain up. Now, if we did this, pretty heavy, we're going to get distortion, but we just want some subtle saturation, some of that bit of sizzle here. Look too far ahead and now I miss the view. Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. All right, so you can hear the distortion there. We're going to bring it back. We want to keep this very, very subtle. Look too far ahead and now I miss the view. Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do. So just getting a little flavor, a little character. And then let's go over here to the EQ section. I like this one because you can combine a couple of different notches in the highs as well as the lows, give you some custom curves here. I'm gonna go ahead and boost just a little bit at 9K. Look too far ahead and now I miss the view. Time passes, love changes. And then let's add a little bit of air here at 15. Look too far ahead and now I miss the view. Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close. Adding a little bit of that air. And then let's go down to the high pass here. I'm going to set this to 50. Just push that notch in. Look too far ahead and now I miss the view. Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close. And I'm going to leave the rest as is right now. We're going to use another plugin to dynamically control some of the mid-frequency information here that's a little bit harsh. But for right now, if we just bypass that. Look too far ahead and now I miss the view. Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour already almost sounds like a different mic, right? So good starting point there. We'll leave that. And next up, we're going to move to a compressor, but this one is quite different. This is a newer plugin that I just got my hands on from Matthew Lane. This one is a combination of a tightness control, or the compression, the subtle analog compression here models some different hardware, and then you've got a contour control, which this is going to be more of a tonal effect. Add subtle saturation, some of the things that we were talking about with the preamp. We get some tonal things that a hardware unit would give us, some top end. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour I'll be feeling it the most. I gotta So that's a pretty aggressive compressor. Let's go try this oxygen one. I've been really liking this. Yes. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing, can we live for one thing other than ourselves? All the hate could go to hell. So even just with a few dB there, we get a nice tightness, nice compression there, glue to the sound. And let's move over to the contour control. And we've got some different settings here. I've been really liking this air control because it adds just a nice top end sizzle. And let's see what this does. Yes. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. Let's A-B that real quick. Yes. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. Yes. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. Wow, so it just really takes the blanket off of that top end there, opens up the mic sound a lot. Very easy and quick to dial in some tone there. And next up, let's go to the DPR 402, which this one I had not really been familiar with. Waves had a sale a couple weeks ago, and so I just picked this up. Thought it was interesting because it combines a compressor, a peak limiter, and a de-esser. It's kind of a different combo of effects there, but it works surprisingly well for, you know, taming a vocal and keeping the S's in check. It's got a great de-esser section. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing, can we live for one thing other than ourselves? All the hate could go to hell. So just a few dB, let's A-B that. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing, can we live for one thing other than ourselves? And with. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing, can we live for one thing other than ourselves? Nice, smooth, sibilant control there. It also has a peak limiter, so sometimes with vocals, if you're pushing it, especially with a 2-track, it's nice to just dial that in. And you also have a compressor that is very nice as well. But since we're already utilizing the Tyco for this, I'm going to leave that as is. Fourth plugin to give you next level mic tone with any microphone is going to be a dynamic EQ or a multi-band compressor. I prefer a dynamic EQ in this sense because we can dial in the problematic areas of your specific mic and your voice, and we can dynamically control them. So just versus an EQ where, you know, we're going to be cutting out the frequencies no matter what. This is very much determined by the performance because obviously dynamically your frequency is going to change there. So I'll show you what we mean. We've got some problematic areas in this mic. Again, like I said, it's got a lot of mid frequencies so that it cuts through on radio and things of that nature. But for this type of vocal, not really the best thing, because once I start stacking vocals, it does get harsh. So we've got a couple of problems here. One of them is going to be at around 1K. Let's just take a look here. Yes. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. So let's go ahead and just dial one right there around 1K. And then we've also got quite a bit of buildup over here at, you know, between 2K, 3.5K. So I'll just put that right there. And then we're going to go down to the dynamic range section. And I'm just going to bring this down. Let's narrow the Q as well. So this is only controlling about somewhere in there. And we'll do maybe, you know, a couple of dB reduction on both of these. Yes. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of... And you've got a handy control down here to control the gain scale. So once you've dialed those plots in, you know, we can increase the intensity of that or decrease it and just leave everything we've done there intact. Yes. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing, can we live for one thing other than ourselves? All the hate could go to hell, Christ burns on our heart. All right, and then we've got another little bit of mud here at like 300 to 400. So let's just dial that one in. I'm going to leave the gain at 0, but we'll just pull down that dynamic range once again. A dB or so would be plenty.
I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I gotta
solo that real quick.
I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour, I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing.
Much better, much better. The fifth plug-in to get next level mic tone with any vocal microphone is going to be a little bit of reverb. Now, this is not like an ear candy type of reverb. What we want to do here is just dial in a small, subtle space that's going to cover up any problematic acoustic issues in your room. So a lot of you that are recording in your bedrooms or, just a spare room with no treatment, you're going to have some flutter, some echo. I have a little bit of flutter in this room just because there's this air duct that kind of goes back on the ceiling and I don't have that treated. So things just kind of reflect off of it. And you can hear that in some of the recordings. So if we put a very subtle reverb on top of that, we can kind of cover that problematic acoustic issue up. So let's go ahead. I've got 100% sent down here to Studio Rack. And this is one of my presets from Divine Mixing Vocal Chains SR. You can dial in pretty much any reverb you could imagine, change the decay time, the pre-delay, add side chaining, all that. But we're going to do something pretty simple. We're just going to use maybe a plate or a room. Let's try a room. We'll dial in a small decay time and a pretty quick pre-delay as well.
Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing, can we live for one thing other than ourselves?
So just a very small, tight, rich sort of sound there just to cover up the tail of the room. Let's hear that in the context of the mix.
Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out.
The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of a boost here, just to give us a bit more top end, just to add to what we did with the contour control on Tycho. And the cool thing about boosting it here with a dynamic EQ, it will boost, but at the same time attenuate if we have, an excess of those high frequencies at a certain part of the performance. So rather than just, adding a boost across the whole thing, we can do it in a very controlled manner. And it just gives you a smoother brightness and top end. So I'm going to add something around 12K. Let's just see what we can do.
Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour I'll be feeling.
So let's go ahead and just play the whole thing back with all of this bypassed, and we'll A/B it.
Time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now.
And with
time passes, love changes. 6 months later we could be strangers. I did everything not to get too close, cause when it goes sour I'll be feeling it the most. I got a list of things to do before I leave now. I got a lot of hands to hold before I bleed out. So tell me this one thing, can we live for one thing other than ourselves? All the hate could go to hell. Christ burns on our hearts, had our backs from the start. Even when we pushed away, it all led us to this day. Fix my broken spirit, we stay prayed up, can you hear us now?